Hi, everybody. Anybody else out there navigating some change right now besides me? Anybody in it with me? Oh, I'll tell you. You know, there's change happening around us all the time, obviously, right? And one of the things that I love about Unity is that we embrace wisdom from wherever there is wisdom, even if that's frozen from Disney, right? Elsa's journey has a lot of pieces to it. But one of the pieces that's happening is that as her life is changing, and as she is changing, she's struggling. She's really struggling to make sense of it all. And she gets to this point, and if you haven't seen it, sorry, spoiler alert, but she gets to this point where Misa sang so beautifully, where she just decides to let it all go. She decides to stop trying to hold on to it so much. Anybody relate to that? Trying to hold it close, trying to hold it tight. And I love this line that she sings, "I'm never going back. The past is in the past." Oh, and there is something so beautiful about that, and there is something heartbreaking about that, right? That the past is in the past, that we actually can't go back. We actually can't go back to who we were. We can't go back to the understanding that we had. That once we have a new insight, once we actually step out, we are changed. It reminds me of another song that Idina Menzel sings, "I am changed for the better," right? I am changed for the better. That's what we hold and know in this teaching. But oh, it is so hard because honestly, we don't want to give up control, do we? We want to know. We want to know what's happening. We want to have a plan. We want to be able to see every single step going forward into infinity and beyond. Look at me, I'm quoting all these Disney movies, cracking myself up. So there's an invitation in this around control, around holding things so tight, so rigid. I call them little deaths, because that's what they are. They're little deaths every day. We have all these little deaths. We have all these small things that are falling away, that are moving away. Now, as a community, we're caught up in a medium-sized death, right? As we literally move buildings, right? We are in something. But these little deaths can feel so big. Can anybody feel that with me? And the thing that we forget in the midst of the little deaths is we forget that actually there's also rebirth happening. And sometimes it's because we can't see it. Sometimes it's because we can't know it yet, because we can't grasp that next level of understanding and consciousness that we are being invited into. Not yet. Because first, something has to die within us. Something has to fall away within us for us to be able to step into a new rebirth. So I've shared this before. There's that space, that place in between the little death and the rebirth. So butterflies, as they are caterpillars and they're moving through their transformational process, there is a point in that process where in the cocoon, the caterpillar dissolves away into literally nothing. The scientists call them imaginal cells. They're no longer a caterpillar, and yet they're not yet a butterfly. I call it the goo, because that's all it is. It's a whole lot of goo. You don't know what it is. You don't know where you are in it. It's slippery, it's messy, it's uncomfortable, it's cold. I mean, it's all of that stuff. It's the goo. And when we are in the goo, that's when we are trying so hard to hold on to what was, rather than just allowing this natural process this natural process of change and evolution and growth to actually move through us. Because that caterpillar could never imagine the butterfly. Never. It literally had to dissolve into, now what I would also call the goo, is what we believe in unity, is it's that field of infinite potential. It's that field of infinite possibility. It is the place when we are being reborn, where we get to make a choice, a new choice. We get to, in that moment, decide anew who we are, what we stand for, what we believe, what we value. We get a clean slate from the goo. Oftentimes, it's not the small things, though the small things can pile up. I think that's my experience right now. It's all the little bits of change piling up. But oftentimes, it's one big thing that's happening for us right now. There's some crisis that perhaps we're in the middle of. Or if we're not in the middle of it, someone we know is in the middle of it, right? And it's impacting us. Or the country is in the middle of it. Let's add that into the mix, right? And I love this. This is the Chinese characters for crisis. And there's actually two characters. And actually, the two characters are danger and opportunity. And together, that creates this Chinese character for crisis. Isn't that amazing? Because that is what we wrestle with when we're on the precipice of change. There's a part of us that just sees danger, right? Because it's new, it's different, we don't know what it is, we can't see it, we're being invited to step out. Oh, here's another movie reference. I'm on a roll today, like Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones, right? When he just has to step out, right? And it feels so dangerous. And yet it's an opportunity for you to be reborn with a new understanding. So which are you living with in those moments of seeming crisis? Where is your attention? Because what we know in this teaching is that where we place our attention grows in consciousness. So where is your attention? Is your attention on the danger? Is your attention on the worry and the doubt and the fear? Or is your attention on opportunity, rebirth, presence, power, truth? Where are you living in this process? Because change is inevitable. It's happening all around. In this human world, in this material world, change is inevitable. But what we know, too, is that within each of us is the immutable and unchangeable. There is that within us that can never be hurt, harmed, or endangered. There is that within us that can never understand even what pain is, because it is beyond that. The divinity that we are, that is what we lean into. That is what we anchor. I am light. I am light. That is where we live and breathe and have our beingness. And whatever is going on out here, the experience that seems to be out there, but guess what? It's right here. Right here. So whatever it is that you think needs fixing out there, what we know and believe in unity teachings is that where do we start? With this. So if you're struggling with the violence in this world right now, have you sat and looked at your own violence? The way you talk to yourself, the way you treat yourself, the way you treat others? Truly? People who don't agree with you, people who do agree with you? Have you really looked at that within you? Have you looked at your own anger? Have you looked at your sense of loneliness, at your sense of despair? At the sense that the only way out is to hit something? Because we all have that within us. We're all capable of that within us. And if we aren't brave enough to look within and to be changed here, then there is no change that's actually going to show up in our world around us. We are the architects of our experience. That is the truth. Science is backing that up now. We are creating our experience. So, change is happening all around us. Are you going to be a willing participant in the process? Or are you going to get dragged along by the process? That resistance. Think about how much energy you are expending in your resistance. Think about the cost on your health, on your well-being. Think about what it is actually costing you. Energy that you could be spending in other ways, like showing up as love, showing up as service. Willing versus resistant. You are always invited to show up to be more willing. And when we are resistant, because hello, it's been my week. When we feel ourselves being resistant, we pay attention to it. I know my signs. I start to get tense. I start to get like I call it, I get revved up. My engine starts going. Right? And I'm like, "Rrr," and that engine starts running. And I'm not showing up as my shiniest self, that's for sure. I'm getting things done, quote unquote, but I'm working so hard at it. So how can you release? How can you let it go? How can you trust this process, this evolutionary process of change and transformation? Because if you say yes and are willing, guess what? Change actually becomes your due north. Change becomes the place that you start to look towards, because that's the place where you know you're going to grow into a greater understanding of who you are. Change becomes the thing that you're actively seeking rather than running from and putting your head in the sand. And it's a practice. I mean, I remember the first time I tried to sit and meditate. I've shared this. It was scary. It was hard. The more you practice being with change, allowing yourself to be carried, the easier it becomes. I love this quote. Faith is the bird that feels the dawn and sings before first light. So what we know and understand in Unity teachings is that faith is not that airy-fairy, cross your fingers, I'm gonna have faith, when what you really mean is, I don't really think it's gonna happen. Faith is our capacity to activate the divinity that we are in time, in space. Faith is our capacity to activate our divinity in time and in space, to create the experience we want to create. And yes, faith is arising out of the invisible. It is arising out of that space before the dawn. It is arising out of that sense of infinite possibility, of infinite potential. That is where our faith lives and breathes. And when we activate our faith, when we are like that bird singing before first light, knowing the truth, it means that we can step out, just like Indiana Jones. We can step out and we know that the road will rise up to meet us, that we are held, we are supported because we, not because some outside power is taking care of us. I want to be really clear about this. This isn't like some outside force field that we're activating. This is the change within ourself that allows you to bring online more of who you truly are, allows you to reveal your divine self and all that you know and understand, so that we don't think about change as change, we think about it as a chance, as an opportunity to be able to grow and to live in new and different ways. We welcome it. And yeah, we might welcome it with tears. We might welcome it with sadness. We might welcome it with a heart that is broken open perhaps with a sense of loss. But in that process, there is something new within you that is seeking to reveal itself. And I will be honest, I need you to show up like that. The world needs you to show up like that. That's how we actually make this a world that works for everyone, through that process. So I'm going to close with this final quote, which I love. She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails. The opportunity is to ungrasp. The opportunity is to loosen, to let go of the shore, to let the waters carry you, trusting that the waters that are carrying you are that which is your best and highest good, and you don't just let it carry you willy-nilly. She adjusts her sails. You are an active participant in where and how your ship, your life, is moving and breathing and being in the world. Not everything's going to go your way. In that song we sing, no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. We're not talking about that magically because you pray, or because you come here on Sundays, or because you take the classes, that nothing awful is ever going to happen in your life. Right? I know. But it doesn't mean that life isn't going to happen. What it means is that our suffering comes from how much we cling to what was. Pain is one thing. Suffering is truly optional. And we can anchor ourselves in our faith, in our spiritual teachings, in the truth that we know, so that we can adjust our sails, so that we can be in harmony, in the flow, and truly experience what our growth, what our joy is here to be and to do. So let's take this into our time of meditation.